Hello, welcome back to Living History with Ted Goldsborough and our guest, Mr. David Byerly. We're talking about the Byerly connection with Lower Merion Township and Lower Merion School District, and also with a man that we're going to get to shortly named William Andy Anderson, who was a basketball coach at Lower Merion High School. And when we left off, Mr. Byerly, we were talking about Williamson Free School.
Right.
And how remarkable it was that students could attend there free of charge.
Yeah.
A wonderful, and it's still going on.
Still graduating every year.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And your father was one of the ringleaders in making sure that the name stayed the same and it wasn't taken over by Wanamaker School.
Yes, that was, they wanted to change the name. Wanamaker was the head of Williamson, but after he passed on, whoever was there wanted to change the name, but like you say, the attorney got in and then they couldn't do it.
Good, good. Now, we had noted that your father was a wonderful athlete at Williamson, but he was also on the yearbook committee, I believe, on the publication committee.
Yeah.
And or the finance committee. Yeah. And that other Lower Merion people named Mr. Barsby, Frank Barsby,
right,
were also on that committee.
That's
and
correct.
He was chairman. And I have a coincidence with Mr. Barsby and Mr. McGrath. And it's interesting. When I was a student at Lower Merion, about 5 of us Lower Merion students were approached by Mr. McGrath, and he asked if he could see us after school. Why? You know, I didn't know who this man was.
Yeah.
And I was taking the college prep courses, not the technical division. So I went over, and he said, would you be interested in working at a boys' camp in Maine during the summer? And we will pay you. You'll get $100 for the summer.
Yeah. Kenny Buckport.
Yeah, well, it was called Camp Kennebec.
Yeah, that's.
And it was in the Belgrade Lakes area.
Right.
So I discussed it with my parents, and they said, okay.
Yeah.
So I drove a Model A Ford, a 1930 Ford, up to Maine with one of my buddies. And there were about 6 of us from Lower Merion who worked in the camp that summer.
Yeah, counselors.
And Mr. Barsby
he was
worked at that camp.
Yeah,
and McGrath worked at the camp.
Yeah.
So it was like a little Lower Merion at this camp in Maine.
It was, and I used to admire the shirts that Mr. Barsby did from L.L. Bean. They were just a mail order company at the time.
Yes.
But he came back with these beautiful flannel shirts, you know.
Yeah. All right, so that was a coincidence that all 3 of those men probably knew 2 of them knew each other down at Williamson, and then they all came into Lower Merion.
Right. Lower Merion hired them.
Hired them, right. Okay, and your father was not only a good athlete, but he was on other committees.
Right. And
this is a nice yearbook that Mr. Byerly loaned us from the Williamson Free Trade School, and from 1920. So it's his class yearbook. And unfortunately, Mr. Byerly's page is missing.
Yeah, I can't.
But Mr. Barsby's in here.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so it's nice to have that yearbook.
I'll have to find the missing page. I don't know where it
was. During the time that Mr. Byerly was at Williamson, they did very well. They had like their best record in history at that time, and Mr. Byerly's name is mentioned in here. And we have a picture, and I don't know whether that's at Williamson, but it shows your father, I believe.
Yeah, second from the left.
Second from the left.
Right.
As a football player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was at a good weight then.
Yes, yes. There's a booklet about the Williamson Free School of Mechanical Trades.
Yeah, this man Williamson had this all figured out. And if you read that, it's a way to build a trade school.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah. They clothed them, they fed them.
Gee.
And there was a course, they had everything, you know. So it was all one man's idea.
Later, in the 1960s or 50s, as Mr. Byerly and I mentioned, there was a movement by the Board of Trustees of both the Wanamaker School and the Williamson School to join together, but this was not made public. It was done in secret.
Right.
And when some of the alumni from Williamson found out about this, they were very upset. And they did some research in the courthouse records because some of these land had already been transferred for a very minimal amount. I think it was $1,200, giving away Williamson land to Wanamaker.
Yeah.
So they approached a Lower Merion attorney named Mr. Thomas Burke, B-U-R-K-E, and he went to work for them and developed quite a case. And they were going to go to court, but under pressure, the trustees gave in and said, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a letter from Mr. Burke to your father.
Yes.
Okay. And then in 1970, your father attended his 50th class reunion.
Right.
And the Alumni Association put out a booklet, and your father's picture.
Yeah, that's my
50
father there.
years later.
Yeah, there he's.
Yeah. And then there's a write-up about him that I guess he submitted to the publication committee.
Yes.
And it continues on the back here.
Yeah, very nice.
And I'm presuming maybe this picture might, I think Mr. Barsby and your father are in this picture.
There's Mr. Barsby and there's my father.
You think that might have been from the reunion?
Yeah, this, I think it's a Williamson reunion, perhaps.
Yes. Well, now we're going to change. And what happened? You know, why do we have a picture of Lower Merion High School here? What did your father do?
What, here?
Yeah.
What did he do? At the high school. Well, he was a shop teacher.
Okay.
And they had a wonderful shop there at Lower Merion. They had a big lumber room in the back, all sorts of mahogany, and all this furniture that these students made were all solid wood. And they learned to turn legs on a lathe, and they had a bandsaw that they allowed them to use. The only machinery they weren't allowed to use was to put the molding on the edge of a table, because it would revolve so quickly if it would kick out, you would get hurt. So he would do that for them. But at the end of the year, they had a project to take home, but they had to pay for the lumber. They had to pay the school for the lumber. But it was nominal. It wasn't a lot, but it was solid wood, so they would pay.
So your father began at Lower Merion as a teaching job about, I think, 1928,
right,
approximately. And he began as a shop teacher in our technical building. Well, I guess that building wasn't built until the 40s. So I don't know, was there a little shop building maybe behind Ardmore Junior High?
It was in the basement of the main building.
Oh, basement of the main building.
It was in the basement of this building. It was over on this side.
But then later they built the technical building.
Well, even when the technical building was sold, they still kept the wood shop in the high school.
Oh.
At that time, the high school had a wonderful wood shop, so they kept the wood shop there. But because I took the same as you, I had Mr. Zuloff for auto shop, but that was in the technical building.
Okay.
But the auto shop was over there, but the wood shop remained in the high school.
Okay. And we have a very nice picture. I love this picture.
Yeah,
can you tell me who's in this?
Mr. Barsby, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Zuloff, and my father. This is Mr. Pierce, right?
Maybe, Pop Pierce.
Yeah, and this was...
Reeves, Grendel Reeves.
Yeah.
Grendel Reeves, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good picture.
And Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a picture of Herr Adam, the German teacher.
Yeah, Mr.
Mr.
Adam.
Adam. So there are, let me see, 6 men in this photograph, all dressed up, got their jackets on and vests on.
Yeah.
And they were all teachers in the Lower Merion School District. And I don't know what the occasion was. I mean, were these coaches? I don't know why this picture was taken. I tried looking in yearbooks and I couldn't find this picture.
Reason,
yeah. But it's a wonderful shot.
Yeah, it's got
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah, it's got 6 of them in there.
Yeah. Now, these men have Lower Merion shirts on, and they're holding a basketball. And I was wondering if perhaps, I'm just guessing, if perhaps your father might have been the basketball coach in 1929-30. I don't know.
I'm not sure of that.
Okay. But we have a picture of 5 basketball players.
But he was always in the gym with Mr. Anderson when the guy was too young to go there at that point because I was in grammar school. But he would go for all the basketball practice. He was there for the whole practice with Mr. Anderson.
Wow.
They would confer, and they had wonderful teams. As you know, they won state championships
4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very impressive, and I want to make. Pretty soon we're gonna have to take a break, but I wanted to mention that when Mr. Anderson was the basketball coach at Lower Merion from the late 20s until 1945, excuse me, Lower Merion won the state championship 4 times.
Right.
And in 41, 42, 43, we won the state championship 3 years in a row. And we're the only public school in Pennsylvania to have done that. Now, Mr. Byerly, we've got to take a break here.
Right, good.
So we'll be back with another session, we hope. This is Ted Goldsboro with Living History with Mr. David Byerly.